Hello, hope y'all are all doing well. It is January 15th, and today I'm once again back. So today I'm going to be talking about pretty much just what we can expect this week, weather-wise across, most of the country. Uh, Got a little bit of some nice channel news, I guess. We'll get into that in just a second. Uh, I hope y'all all had a great Saturday and a great Sunday. And yeah, so right now we're looking at some bands of snow, kind of moving west. Well, slowly, yeah, I guess kind of moving west into areas of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and even up into New Hampshire and southern Maine. This is going to be kind of a little bit of an event as we go. Because we've been looking at this all day. We've had some decent snowfall accumulations in some areas. We're going to be looking at more winter weather in this area over the next couple of days, especially up into Maine, which we're going to get to talking about in just a second. First off, we're going to start over to the west. We're going to start off in the northern high plains here. Yeah, this is kind of the channel news, I guess you could say. I mean, it's not nothing big. It's just I now have Weather Bell, so it's going to be gonna have a little bit of some nicer stuff to look at. We'll still be using Pivotal Weather for a lot of severe forecasting and that type of stuff. Because in my opinion, I still like Pivotal Weather for severe stuff because you can take soundings much more easy or much more easy. It's much more easier or much easier to take soundings over on Pivotal Weather than on Weather Bell. But yeah, so we're looking at just reflectivity tonight. So this is the 18Z run of the HRRR from a couple of hours ago. So as we go into tonight by 04Zs, this is about 10 p.m. We're already going to be looking at some precip starting to build across areas in Nebraska and South Dakota, and then maybe some snow. Kind of just freezing rain mixing in some of these areas if you're kind of inching below the freezing mark. We take a look at temperatures at this time in Fahrenheit here, and we can see, temperatures are in some cases right in the 30s or right around freezing or right below freezing. So that kind of determines whether you have freezing rain or not. Then over towards the west, we have a little bit more cold air aloft. We can see we will have snow. Let's go back to what we were looking at before. And we can see this little band slowly propagate eastward as we go throughout tonight, bringing some decent little snow to areas of Nebraska and northeast Colorado there. And then we see once the low ejects into the plains tomorrow morning, we see some more organized snow bands. But some areas, if we go back to the 12s, to the 23Z run of the HRRR, this is the latest run. We can see we still indicates a good bit of snow across that area tonight. If we take a look at actual snowfall accumulations, based on the Kachera ratio here, some areas could pick up quick 1 to 2 inches, maybe very localized 1 to 2 inches, mainly a half inch in some areas. So that's not bad. That's something pretty cool. Looking at Minnesota though tomorrow, so we can see at the onset during the onset of the precip, we could be looking at some brief freezing rain in some areas, freezing rain or some sleet, and then or even some snow, all pretty much staying all snow in northern Minnesota. We can see it'll start off as snow and remain all snow during the day tomorrow. But southern Minnesota, or southern and central Minnesota, we'll see some mixing during the day. But this is 9 a.m. in the morning. We're seeing mainly rain, even some heavier rain in southern Minnesota, and even maybe a little bit of an interesting severe threat further to the south, which we'll briefly discuss in just a second. Actually, at the end of the video, we'll talk about it maybe. But yeah, but as temperatures cool tomorrow evening, we can see 6 p.m. tomorrow. We're looking at a lot of moderate to heavy snow across central Minnesota, even mixing into northern Wisconsin. You can see that does slowly kind of die out as it goes into Wisconsin, but some areas do see a good bit of snow across Minnesota. Looking at total snowfall off the Kachera ratio here, which gotta get back to the 18Z here. Yeah, here we go. So this shows us a lot. Some of these area totals over here might be a little low because the snow still hasn't fully moved in that area yet. But I mean, we look at a good 3 to 4 inches, or like a good 2 to 4 inches for a good bit of central Minnesota, and then into northeast Minnesota, where we kind of stay as snow, maybe a half foot in some areas. So pretty decent little winter storm in that area. Looking at the entire thing, you can see at the onset of that precip in Wisconsin, we could see a little bit of some freezing rain. And some freezing rain over the lakes due to those cooler temperatures, I'm guessing. But I mean, that's not going to be that big of an issue if it's over the lakes. And then we can see, some storms popping off in that area tomorrow, like in eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois, which we'll talk about at the end of the video real quick over on Pivotal Weather. Maybe even some snow in northwest Iowa. We'll see about that, but some areas could pick up a little quick accumulation on the backside of this in that area as well. So moving on into the northeast. Okay, the northeast is like a little bit of an interesting area, especially up in Maine. Maine is going to be something that's going to be kind of a big deal. So I mean, already tonight, this is 7 p.m. Kind of like as I'm making this video, we already have some freezing rain, kind of in that far eastern area of Maine, with this storm system off the coast. And as this thing just moves north, we just see freezing rain and sleet all night across eastern Maine, central Maine, and then another push tomorrow afternoon of just freezing rain, more and more freezing rain. So we're going to be having a good little ice storm across that area of Maine, and even some accumulating snow in some areas further west. So yeah, then we see this next system come in. But if we can take a look at freezing rain totals here, we see a good little, I mean, definitely a decent ice storm, although this doesn't go out as far as I'd like it to. Let me switch back to the 18Z run. Yeah, we can see, by the time this is all said and done, the HRRR indicates, a good half inch of freezing rain across this eastern corridor of Maine. Which, if we take a look at I think we can take a look at the National Weather Service forecasts for this as well. Yeah, freezing rain based off the National Weather Service here, like National Weather Service forecast. So this is a little bit of a better solution, I'd say. A good like 0.3 of an inch to maybe even a half inch in this area. So I mean, that's pretty significant. So yeah, we're definitely going to be looking at a little bit of an ice storm across Maine. I mean, definitely nothing that this area hasn't seen before. I mean, this area has definitely seen this before, but it'll definitely cause some issues in some areas. Looking at the NAM, we're going to see a very similar solution with that freezing rain. And then this next system, as we go into Tuesday, as it enters the northeast, also bringing some freezing rain areas like Binghamton, New York, even maybe Albany, and then up to Burlington, maybe briefly, just like some freezing drizzle. According to the NAM, the HRRR has a little more activity though, although it doesn't go out completely. Does have a little more precip in the NAM, so that's something to indicate. But yeah, it's going to be kind of something else we're going to want to watch after this. Yeah, so now we're looking at the GFS model. We're looking at pretty much the entire U.S. of what we're seeing right now. We can see our 985 millibar low off the in the Atlantic currently. Very active across the west. We still have a lot of snow in the west. Currently, we have a 989 millibar low in Kansas. That's pretty interesting. In fact, it's going to be our low, though. That's what's going to be bringing our winter storm tomorrow. But yeah, we can see tomorrow afternoon we're starting to see that snow across this area here. Pockets of freezing rain, that 991 millibar low in central Iowa, with that severe weather threat across this area potentially. It's not a significant severe weather threat, not like anything like what we've been looking at in the southeast. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. But GFS seems to give that area northwest Wisconsin a pretty good bit of snow, but like total snowfall off the GFS model for that little winter storm gives a good bit of snow across the Dakotas and Minnesota, same areas the HRRR is, but it has a good corridor across that area of Wisconsin. So we'll see about that. What that area can do. Let me shift back to what we had before, which I think was this. Yeah, no, it was this. Still getting used to pivotal weather, so I'm sorry if I'm a little little slow. Then we can see the little event Tuesday in the northeast. Then Wednesday, we see our next low eject. Okay, so Tuesday, we're going to be looking at a lot of snow across the Four Corners states. Then as this low ejects into Wednesday, we see a pretty good looking winter storm across areas in Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas. And this could be a pretty decent winter storm for areas of the plains and to the Midwest, which that's what we want to talk about now. So if we are here, let me think about something here. Okay, yeah, so let's take a look at 500 millibar winds here, because I mean, with this, we could also potentially see a severe weather threat. We just look at the 500 millibar winds here. Just look at this piece of energy right here. That does look pretty good in front of that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it does look pretty good. We take a look at dew points. We have plenty of moisture as well in front of this. Dew points in the 60s. So I mean, yeah, that we're probably going to be looking at severe weather then, as well as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. Potentially once again this week, another more severe weather this week in January, which is not good. But yes, I mean, like, key differences between the GFS and the Euro with the system. I mean, there's not a lot of differences. We see, a lot of that heavy snow across areas in Nebraska, Colorado. If anything, I think the European gives some areas a little more heavy snow, but it also doesn't appear to give northern Illinois as much snow, because some areas kind of switch over to rain. And the northeast gets a little freezing rain event as we go into Thursday and Friday, which the GFS doesn't really give. It kind of just has that thing sliding into the northeast, bringing some areas some snow. So that'll be our next storm system, potentially bringing some pretty decent snowfall accumulations to some areas. So we're not going to talk about that too much today, because there's already a lot to talk about. But we'll probably talk about that probably tomorrow, a little more. So yeah, now we're looking at the models. We're over on Pivotal Weather. I want to look at the severe weather event tomorrow. Kind of what we can expect regarding that. So these are our dew points. We can see 17Z tomorrow. We have a nice low in the around 990 millibars in western Iowa right there. We have a very clear cold front right here. Dews in the 50s. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of moisture, so it's not a classic severe weather event set up here. But what we're gonna want to watch, if I can get a good sounding here. Let me go back to the 18Z. Run the HRRR here. But yeah, I mean, what we're gonna want to really look at, or what we're gonna be looking at tomorrow, is really just a cold core tornado potential, or a tornado threat. So we look at shear. We have a decent bit of wind shear. The hodograph is supportive of that low end tornado threat, which I'm not gonna talk about it too much. Not really gonna bring any target areas here, but across this area of this area here, we're definitely gonna want to watch for that threat tomorrow. Which we can see HRRR indicates a few storms going off, especially as we go into late afternoon in far eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois. Which, I mean, I'm not really buying this reflectivity here, but so yeah, I mean, any storm we can get to go. I mean, models reflectivity wise don't tend to do good with these types of setups, in my opinion, but I mean, we could definitely, we have a decent environment for some some cold core supercells with the low. So we'll see what they can do tomorrow. Although I don't even think we have a marginal risk. I think it's just a general thunderstorm risk. So yeah, and I wanted to pull up the SPC real quick so we can look at Wednesday. So yeah, Wednesday we have that severe weather, that 15% risk in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, which we'll talk about more tomorrow, because I don't want to make this video too long tonight. and I mean this is pretty much the last thing we're going to be talking about. So now we're just looking at the ECMWF weeklies. So as like this week, most of the U.S. is pretty above average generally, with the exception of a little bit of the West, well, and Florida. For some reason, Florida is kind of an outlier here. But like this pattern in the East does change as we get into like the 21st through the 28th. So pretty much like next week. So like this goes through pretty much today through, like, this is pretty much for this week right here. But then next week is really when we start to see some cool air finally entering like areas of the southeast, or at least just average temperatures, which I mean the ECMWF has been pretty consistent with this. Like last run, same time frame, 2 runs ago was, I mean, even like slightly above average is a little better than what we're looking at right now in the East, but I mean pretty consistently cooler here. But I mean, look at the West. So the West is very very consistently below average. So that's just something to keep in mind here as well. The West is going to be very cold. But maybe as we get into like next weekend, into like after next weekend to next week, we could be looking at a cool down in the East. We'll see. We're not going to get into any specifics really, but we could be looking at that. If we take a look at the GEFS extended, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it does like pretty much look at the same stuff pretty much. It also kind of indicates that cold air bleeding a little further east. It doesn't fully make it into the east though in the GFS. So that's something to pay attention to. But you can see it's a little bit different than the Euro, but I mean some areas kind of in like Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Alabama, Northwest Georgia do get some of that cold air to bleed over there. So yeah, so then they'll be kind of interesting to track over this week, see what that kind of leads to as we go into next week, temperature anomaly wise in the East. But yes, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Just if you have, once again, if you have any suggestions that you would like to see, like any like video content you'd like to see, just let me know. I'd appreciate it. But yes, goodbye.